So, if there are no questions, it seems no questions. Huh? Okay. We will remember, we will always do 3 days of teaching, and after the 3 days, whatever questions there may be regarding the material we have covered, so we will discuss. So this is the 3 days over, so the first day for questions and answers. If there are no questions and answers, of course, no questions, I will of course start with the discourse. Yes, please.
My question is, sometimes when focusing on the flower image, the external image, after a certain time, the blue color does not seem to me to be very clear anymore. It begins to change.
So you open the eyes and look at the flower again. That's how you fix the mental image. First you watch outside. You will find in your book, I should use a little bit material of what you have in the book. You have 4 conditions for entering the shamatha. Actually, to fulfill them, it's a process, but you should contemplate these conditions. First, your body should be immobile. You should have a stable bodily posture. Second, you should have a stable eyes, not moving eyes. Third, you should have a non-moving object. So when you use the blue color, it's okay. I advise complete beginners to start with a breath meditation, maybe better, but you can try. You should fix your eyes in the middle of the flower. And a very important condition is the object of meditation should be clear. No matter whether you work with shamatha or vipassana, according to the teachers, there is no shamatha and vipassana on a non-clear object. Very important to contemplate that. So the very important is to make the object clear and keep it clear. In the Theravada tradition in which I have been trained, the objects of shamatha and objects of vipassana, they are in a way different. There are some exceptions, like the 4 elements, which is object of shamatha and vipassana also. But generally speaking, the object of shamatha and vipassana in Southern tradition, they are different objects. The objects of vipassana, they are the rupas and the namas, the mind and mental factors, and the form or materiality and the factors of materiality. They are to be distinguished in terms of their characteristics, of their function, of their manifestation, of their cause, primary cause. Now we are learning the Northern tradition. Northern tradition peculiarity is we do not really distinguish between the shamatha objects and the vipassana object. The shamatha object can become vipassana object can become shamatha object. So when you study the scriptures in Northern tradition like Yogacara, Bhumi Shastra, Ichye Shatilun, you will find the objects of shamatha also dependent origination, the 6 elements, They are, in fact, in Southern tradition, pure Vipassana objects. So now we will talk about it because we are discussing the Northern tradition. We will talk about it, how to combine the Shamatha attention and the Vipassana attention. We will talk, maybe if we have time, the different aspects of the Shamatha attention and the Vipassana attention, and how to join them together. Now, most of us are interested in also in the tantric tradition, which we're going to learn in the coming years. So this is very important. The Shamatha and Vipassana objects, they should not be separated. But still, the same rule applies to all meditation. The first Shamatha, you have to train in one-pointedness of the mind, then Vipassana. But you can still try to combine these attentions, in fact, from the very beginning. We will discuss in the coming days maybe how, little bit. But strictly speaking, according to the Northern tradition, there is no, strictly speaking, there is neither real Shamatha nor real Vipassana unless the meditator has attained what, there is a technical word for that in Buddhism, also used in yoga. Those of us who are interested in yoga, this word is called prashrabdi. In your book, they have a very strange, in a way, translation. They translate prashrabdi as purity. The real Shamatha and Vipassana starts when the mind has attained the purity. But prashrabdi actually does not mean just purity. Abhidharma Kosha, which is very important for the Northern tradition, the Tibetan Lamas, they all learn, defines this prashrabdi as karmanyata, which means the she ye, she to she, she to she, ye, karma. That means the mind is very pliable, becomes soft, becomes smooth, becomes light. We have talked about all, according to the Buddhist tradition, especially the Northern Buddhism, all defilements, they are linked to the grossness. Daustuliam, Tsujung. Because we are gross, we have defilements. Now the opposite of grossness is prashrabdi. So basically it means lightness, pliability, ability to adapt to any situation. This is especially emphasized in the tantric tradition, in Dzogchen Mahamudra. The lightness, smoothness, straightness. When the mind is pure, it has straightness, rijuta, and at the same time pliability, flexibility, lightness. This is prashrabdhi. All these mental factors in Theravada Buddhism, they are distinguished mental factors. In Northern Buddhism, they all come under the prashrabdhi. Ching An. So, strictly speaking, the real shamatha and vipassana, but first shamathas and vipassana, starts when you have attained this conditioning. Then you can, if you analyze the characteristics of the object, then you are using the vipassana attention. If you stay with the same object and do not analyze its characteristics, then you have the shamatha attention. But in order to attain this state of pliability, purity of mind, I myself, in my translation, I translate this prashrabdhi as clarity and relaxation. That may be the most, at least for my limited knowledge, the best translation of this term. When we are relaxed and clear, in your text they translate purity. We have real access into the shamatha and vipassana, which has a job to purify the mind. In your book, The Three Visions, this purification of the mind is connected with the process of acquiring the ultimate bodhicitta. This is how it explained in your text. You cannot realize ultimate bodhicitta without mastering the shamatha and vipassana. Now, as opposed to the southern tradition, in the northern tradition, the whole process of learning, and in Buddhism, the process of learning means three learnings. Learning discipline by moral conduct and by opposing the active defilements by their opposites. That means when we have greed, especially sensual greed, we pay attention to a non-beautiful object. When we have anger, we pay attention to love. When we have dullness, we pay attention to light. When we have dullness, we pay attention to the dependent origination. When we have pride, we pay attention to the 6 elements. This is what we beings are. We are all just earth, water, fire, wind, space and consciousness. So what is there to be proud about? When you have vikshepa, the scattering mind, you pay attention to the breath, or you pay attention to impermanence and so on. So this is the discipline fighting against the defilements. If you want to become a yogi, the yogi is a fighter. Fighter with what? Fighter with himself. So when the defilements are active, we counter them by opposites, based on the moral conduct. Discipline of moral conduct. Shila samvara. Now, if you study Buddhism, like the Dhammapada in Southern Buddhism, the novices all have to mostly learn Dhammapada by heart. The Buddha praises in many, many verses the discipline. Actually, the three learnings are learnings of three disciplines. When we have discipline of moral conduct, of fighting the defilements, active defilements by paying attention to opposites, antidotes, then we can succeed in the discipline of one-pointedness. That is shamatha. The discipline of one-pointedness leads to samadhi. When one-pointedness becomes a habit, we naturally go into samadhi. And in samadhi, the attention becomes spontaneous. We do not have to force it. We will talk about the 9 stages of shamatha. When you have attained this spontaneous attention, you have attained the 9th stage of shamatha. And the whole training is, as far as explained in Northern Buddhism, is for that purpose. Now, the Northern Buddhism, for good reasons, we will talk about it later, because we are interested in the Tantric tradition, does not emphasize so much the training in shamatha as a training in the dhyanas based on subtle forms and based on formless objects, but it emphasizes this spontaneous attention. This spontaneous attention, when you attain, you can go into the dhyana if you like. You can learn anything. Vipassana becomes easy, dhyanas becomes easy, visualizations become easy, pure visions become easy. Everything becomes easy with spontaneous attention. But the spontaneous attention still remains on the top of the sensual, on the sphere of perception based on sensual perception. We have explained that in Buddhism, also in yoga, the old training in yoga, in meditation, is based on the cosmology. This is very important also for understanding what you are learning now, even in the impure vision. What we experience depends on our perception. So there are three types of perceptions. Perceptions which is dominated by senses, where the senses still play important role. Then the perception where the senses go completely into the background. That is the sphere of perception in the subtle forms, which you can learn on your meditation on the blue color or on the breath or any other suitable object. And when you have mastered the meditation on the subtle forms, you can go into the highest sphere of perception, which is the perception of the no forms. I should teach some basics of the Buddhist understanding. It is very important. In Buddhism, the perception is intimately linked with sensation. What we perceive, that we sense. What we sense, that we perceive. This is also very important for understanding the impure visions that you are learning now. In Buddhism, the perception and sensation we call chitta samskara. Chitta samskara means the formations of the mind. They form the mind. Our mind is formed by our perception and by our sensation. And sensation and perception, they are inseparable. What we perceive, that we sense. What we sense, that we perceive. Now, in the scriptures, especially in the agamas, in the scriptures for disciples, the Buddha explains very often the whole process of learning meditation, learning Shamatha and Vipassana, as a process of experiencing more and more subtle mind. Experiencing more and more subtle mind means experiencing more and more subtle perception and sensation. So this is how you come to the topmost sensation and perception. In Southern Buddhism, we still train like that. You have to touch with your mind, because if you want to understand Buddhist meditation, we want to understand Buddhism, you want to understand your impure vision, you should contemplate one most important principle of Buddhism. We can only experience, we can only perceive what we touch. We can only realize what we touch. What we do not touch, we cannot realize, we cannot perceive, we cannot sense, we cannot know. If we want to understand Buddhist meditation, we want to understand how Buddhist meditation is linked to Buddhist cosmology, what you are now learning also in the impure vision. So all our experience boil down to the touch. And all that we can touch, we can only touch through the six senses. What we do not touch, we cannot know. What we do not touch, we cannot also learn. So now you are learning to touch your meditation object with your mind, which is stable, fixed, non-moving. So for that you need a non-moving object and non-moving eyes. And the upaya, the means for that, is non-moving body, because when we have non-moving body, it's easy to make the eyes non-moving, object non-moving. So we can go into shamatha. Otherwise, very difficult to succeed. So actually, the shamatha training implies many, many things. So our mind is formed by touch, and through touch we experience the perceptions and the sensations. And according to Buddhism, the touch is a result of our karma. When we have a pleasant touch, it is a result of a wholesome karma. When we have unpleasant touch, it is a result of unwholesome karma. Now we have done trillions of karma, if we are to believe in Buddhism, in our past lives. What karma comes, we can never know. If we believe in Buddha, so we believe the Buddha knows, we don't know. So we have started explaining meditation by explaining that there is an interchange between the object and the mind. The mind is transformed by the object, and the mind again, with the same process, transforms the objects. And how is the mind transformed? How are the objects transformed? In this transformation of the mind, the most important role is played precisely by our sensation and by our perception. When we have a pleasant sensation, if we are deluded, we hold. When we have unpleasant sensation, we want to repulse. Because we have this tendency, we know we are in samsara. We are in samsara because our mind is formed by our sensations and by our perceptions. And its formation is always changing. According to the touch. The time is passing and this monk is talking. But this talking, I guess, is important because it will hope put some light on what you have been learning about the impure visions. But we want to go into the pure vision. And there is no other way to do that except by learning Shamatha and Vipassana. And because we have the aspiration of Buddhahood, we learn the Shamatha and Vipassana in the framework of practicing the ultimate bodhicitta. So that much for now. We will continue talking, make things clear in the coming days, but I hope this explanation will be useful for your understanding and for your connecting what we are learning in the coming lecture with your meditation. So now just concentrate. If you are a complete beginner, maybe it is better to start with the breath. If you are a complete beginner of the beginners, then you just try to stay with the whole breath in and out, as explained in your book. If you can do it, then place your attention at the nostrils and stay at the nostrils. And pay attention to the place where you can identify the touch. We have explained everything we experience through the touch. The breath we also experience through the touch of the body and through the touch of the mind. The touch of the mind determines the touch of the body. Very important to understand. The touch of the body is gross. The touch of the mind is subtle. So we cannot create the subtle objects through the body, we have to create them through the mind. The body is the prisoner of the mind, but the mind, we want to learn meditation, the mind eventually should not be the prisoner of the body. Why? Because we are learning meditation and we are learning that the real mind has no place to dwell. This is your ultimate bodhicitta. So now we just concentrate on our meditation object, place the mind on the meditation object by practicing unmovable body, unmovable sight, and unmovable object. So this is how you get into the process of sublimation. The learning meditation is a process of sublimation of mind through sublimation of perception and sensation. This is how also meditation is connected with your cosmology. The whole world is in the mind.
愿此功德普及一切我等一众生，皆共成佛道。May the merits we have gained spread to all beings, so that myself and them together attain the Buddhahood. Thank you.